Man, I fucking love this game. With the release of Shadow of the Erdtree right on our doorstep, I thought it'd be a great time to talk about Elden Ring. 2 years later, and there's still nothing like it. Very few games reach this level of perfection and focus and level of cool. FromSoft are masters of their craft, and before the new stuff drops, I want to talk about all the things I find really good in Elden Ring, and also some of my more smaller critiques that diminish the experience as a whole, but doesn't negate the fact that this is a piece of art of like the highest measure. But I do have nitpicks. So first off, let's talk about the world, the vibe. It's amazing. After 2 years and over 200 hours into this world, it still takes my breath away, just like jaw-dropping. FromSoft excels at creating these like incredibly highly detailed fantasy worlds and just crafting certain moods. And the beauty with FromSoft design is that even though there is a lot of information that is often dense and esoteric, and it does not really hold her hand in explaining how everything is connected in a way that a lot of other stories are, all those details are there, but you don't really need to know them. Like, I watch lore videos every now and then and probably forget the information, and I do read a lot of the item descriptions and whatever, but really, it is just a vibe, and that's not just me like dismissing it. Just all the information is there, and I feel like FromSoft is very good at writing their worlds and stories and characters in a way where, like, emotionally you pick up on that. Subconsciously, you pick up on those things. You know, I've been reading the fantasy series Malazan, Book of the Fallen. Really great. There's 10 books. I'm like in the beginning of the second one. And they are very... This series is known to be a bit difficult in a similar way that Dark Souls and FromSoft games are. It's difficult because both Malazan and like Elden Ring expects you to really trust the author. Both are like, hey, on the first playthrough, on the first read, you're probably not gonna know what's going on. There's a lot of history and characters and interweavings of things. But if you hold on to my hand and just trust me, just get immersed. You don't need to know the details. You might pick up on them as you play through, yes, but join me on this adventure. And it works. Both of these things, both Malazan and Elden Ring, they have very in-depth mechanics and lore, but really, these are works of poetry. Elden Ring is a work of poetry, and yeah, that sounds like pretentious as fuck, but am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. Tell me if you disagree. But come on, this is a cold take. Come on. There's so much mood and, I don't know, weaving of ideas. I keep using the word vibe because that's like the fun word that people use nowadays, but to me, the enjoyment of Elden Ring isn't just the literal interpretations of what happens to the characters, of which things do happen to the characters. There's a lot of quest lines with Ronnie and the fucking loathsome dung eater. But a lot of it is just more like how you look at a painting. How do those colors make you feel? What emotions does that elicit? And like that's what Elden Ring is for me, which is why I feel in the fantasy genre, very few things come close to what FromSoft consistently does. And now, yeah, let's talk about the open world and how that works. This is FromSoft's first open world, and yeah, I think it's basically the best an open world game can be. Not even joking. Open worlds are a very oversaturated, not even genre, game design decision. A lot of games don't need to be open world. A lot of games are full of bloat. And while FromSoft does have bloat in this game, there are a few areas where I do wish some things were cut just a bit. Namely, like the enemy variety was lacking in the end game, and basically a lot of things do sort of suffer towards the end game, even though it largely works. It's just I'd rather less is more in a lot of cases, and basically every case to me personally. And it was getting a bit much, but what FromSoft really nailed is that feeling of exploration. And wow, the first playthrough of Elden Ring is really one of the most magical things ever, and is why I'm so excited for Shadow of the Erdtree, because there's like new stuff. It's like getting to experience a new thing for the first time when it's great like this. So awesome. Subsequent playthroughs of Elden Ring are, though, a bit worse. You kind of know what to ignore, what to go to. And in my first playthrough, a lot of bosses are too hard because I was like under-leveled, and obviously in New Game Plus with a lot of levels, a lot of bosses are too easy, which actually, yeah, brings me to my next point. I want to talk about difficulty. Video game difficulty is a contentious subject in some circles. There's a lot of people with a lot of very strong feelings on the matter on whether or not every game should have a difficulty mode, or whether artistic integrity is the most important, what exactly is accessibility, all those questions. For me, unfortunately, I am a filthy centrist. I kind of agree with everyone. On one hand, I do wish Elden Ring had difficulty sliders, not just to make it easier, but often to make it harder as well. Like once I had my fully developed character, the way I liked, because I like to roleplay with certain characters in mind, a lot of it was like, I steamroll through things. And of course, with Millennia, who I showed in the first clip, in the intro, you know, the hardest boss FromSoft has ever made so far. Shadow of the Erdtree is coming out tomorrow, so I'm sure that will change. But on the other hand, I do absolutely respect FromSoft's decision to have all of us have a shared experience, and narratively, the struggle is part of the narrative. If you're able to turn down all the settings and never die, or have that threat of dying or struggling even a little bit, yeah, I agree that the game would be very different. And I don't know. With these games, there's a shared sense of camaraderie because the game does want you to succeed, and there's so many tools to do it. I am playing with the most brain-dead, easy-to-use, idiot-proof builds. Like, I'm playing this game really for the immersive experience as someone who loves high fantasy and exploration, where the combat, it's fun, but like when I beat Millennia, I felt hollow. I didn't feel good the way a lot of people feel good after struggling against a hard boss. I just kind of felt like just kind of a bit empty, which is fine. Not everything has to appeal to everyone, but for me personally, I like to grill and chill, as I've said before in videos. So yes, I'm using the Moonville, and I'm doing the Unga Bunga build and the magic sniping build. It's fine. And what I love about Elden Ring is that there's so much build variety that I can do that. I could be like, fuck it. I think a lot of these issues I do have with the unevenness of difficulty in the game, like, because sometimes, you know, you're not at the right level either way in either direction, depending on the part of the game you're in. Where if they just had a like combat arena, sort of the same way they have for Armored Core 6, which I love. Like if they had an arena where I could, like a separate place to do combat where I can adjust it, that would make me so happy. And my strongest issue against Elden Ring, and it's a small nitpick really, but it still bugs me as someone who doesn't like tedious aspects of really any game, and I do find this tedious, is the way weapon upgrades work suck. I don't like them. I'll just say it. Boo me. I don't like having all my stats the way I like them, and then discovering a new weapon and being like, cool, this is a new weapon, but because it's not leveled up and I'm in the end game and the only weapons that do any damage are fully leveled up ones, great, I have to find the fucking materials to upgrade this thing before I could even use it. I just wish that the weapons were like more tied to stats. Like, hey, you're a strong guy, you can, like, this heavy weapon is like scaled like to you. And I guess if you can have like upgrades if you want, that's like a way to like modify your own difficulty for your own enjoyment, but I wish it was like 1 through 3 or 1 through 5, not like 1 through 25 with the normal weapons and 1 through 10 with the, like the special ones. That's too much. That's like ridiculous. From the previews I've seen on Shadow of the Erdtree, it seems like they drop more of the upgrades materials more readily, which I hope is true, because if I don't have to find the upgrade materials, if I'm overflowing with them, that'll be easier. But like kind of dreading the fact that like, oh, if I find some cool weapons and the expansion, they won't be as effective. But that might just be a me problem. But yeah, it does show how great Elden Ring really is. If my main critiques are upgrading feels a little tedious, there's a little bit too much bloat, of fun, but just repetitive content, mostly like with the dungeons, and that the second playthrough is like a little worse. Those are some pretty small nitpicks, enough to make me bitch about it online and on YouTube, but wow, that experience, like, there's just so many cool moments of just like seeing Lindale for the first time, and like every boss cutscene, and being in this world is just a joy, and I cannot wait until I get my hands on Shadow of the Erdtree. So yeah, that's my unscripted thoughts on Elden Ring. I'm so excited for the DLC. I will be making content about it. I don't know what yet. I don't know what I'll be fine. I've been avoiding spoilers. But if you like Elden Ring and if you like video games, then hey, if you like rats too, or if you think the rats in the beginning of the video are cute, give me a follow, like this video. There's gonna be more to come. Super excited. And yeah, thanks. I'm the Rat Shepherd, and see y'all very soon.